We all love the Jurassic Park San Diego Amphitheater, don't we? It's an amazing building. It's huge, it's gigantic, it's beautiful. Yes, it has the San Diego name on top of it, but it's awesome. Except no, it isn't. You can't modify the terrain inside. You can't add water. You can't place a lagoon in it. That's understandable because hitboxes, although there are mods that can do that, but whatever. And the viewing ability of the amphitheater as a viewing gallery for the dinosaurs, it's awful. So basically the amphitheater is this huge and beautiful building, but useless. It's basically a fancy baseball stadium. A fancy Jurassic themed baseball stadium. So in today's video, I'll be giving you 4 tips and ideas of what to do with the amphitheater in your parks. Tip number 1, or idea number 1, whatever. You can use the amphitheater as the entry point for your park. In this case, I'm going with the Jurassic Park era buildings, of course. I place the helipad at the center of the amphitheater. You can create the path with whatever you like. Personally, I enjoy creating this circular shape design with several palm trees surrounding it, a fountain at the center of it, or a dinosaur skeleton. And then you can pretend that the amphitheater around it, it's not actually an amphitheater, but perhaps a hotel, a fancy big hotel, maybe a restaurant, a fancy big gigantic restaurant, or the visitor center. Or you can pretend that the amphitheater is just a random building that's just there. You can pretend that it's perhaps an attraction, maybe a museum of dinosaurs, or maybe a museum about the park, something like that. Whatever you desire. There's no limits for the creativity in Jurassic World Evolution 2. Actually, no, there is. They're called hitboxes. Idea number two is actually a variation of the idea number one. Instead of using the amphitheater as the entrance for your park, you can pretend that it is a guest area. For example, you can pretend the amphitheater is a hotel, and at the center of it there's an open space for the guests to sit and relax. You can pretend that it is a restaurant, and the center of it is an open space with tables and chairs for the guests to sit and eat and enjoy the nature at its finest. Or you can pretend it's just a random building for the guests to sit and do nothing. Like I said, there's no limits for the creativity, except for the hitboxes. In this case, I went with the idea that the amphitheater is this huge and fancy hotel, and the center of it is a square for the guests to sit and relax and do nothing. Because these guys, they walk around the park all day. They're tired. They just want to sit, relax, and do nothing. Also, something I forgot to mention in idea number one. If you're going to use the amphitheater as the entrance for your park, I recommend you place it at the center of the park, at the very core of your map. Since the amphitheater stands out from the rest of the buildings, from the rest of your park, it's basically a landmark. So your guests can just, look around, have a panoramic view of your park. They will spot the amphitheater, and they'll know that if they go to that direction, they'll be heading back to the entrance of your park. Idea number three. Use the amphitheater for what it was meant to do. What does that mean? The amphitheater is basically a stadium. It's like the Mosasaurus Stadium. There's the shark, lures the mosasaur jumps out of the water, grabs the shark, splashes into the water, everyone cheers, and then Ty Simpkins' character, whose name I forgot, counts how many teeth there are in the mosasaur, and that's all. Gray Mitchell, his character was named Gray Mitchell. So use the amphitheater for that. I placed Tyrannosaurus Rex on the amphitheater, 2 of them, and at the center of the amphitheater, I placed a carnivore feeder, the meat feeder, not the goat feeder. The goat will just run away. So at the center of the amphitheater, there is the meat feeder. It will attract the carnivores, they'll eat, and it will be a feeding show for the guests. Final tip, final idea. To hell with animal rights. Forget animal rights. Forget the dinosaur protection group. Close the amphitheater and place a dinosaur at the center of it. That's all. Particularly, I don't like to create an enclosure around the amphitheater because it looks really odd. So you can close the amphitheater and just place a dinosaur at the center of it, and that's that. Of course, that means your dinosaur won't have any access to water, because like I said at the beginning of the video, at the start of the video, you can't place water inside the amphitheater, you can't modify the terrain. You can only add foliage and meat feeders and carnivore feeders. So it's not necessarily realistic, but well. In this case, I went with the Dimetrodon. It is a small creature, and technically the amphitheater has an average amount of space for a small creature like the Dimetrodon. So there it is. I'm not particularly fond of this final idea. Personally, I prefer to use the amphitheater more like an entry point than like an enclosure or an attraction, because like I said, the viewing ability of the amphitheater is awful, but you can choose whatever tip and idea you like. That's all for today, guys. Don't you forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.